This is the strategy inside everything. I'm Adam Pierno. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Inside Everything. Very excited about today's conversation. I am joined by freelance strategist Kaitlin Maud Moon. Kaitlin, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. We were going back and forth a little bit on our topic, and I wanted to bring it out of the Twitter world and into the real world, sort of, via Zoom.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to talking more to you. Would you mind, before we get into our topic, would you mind giving people a sense of how you got to your current role before you started your own thing?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I've listened to some of the other episodes, and I'd say of anyone's background, I probably have the most similar background to Rachel Mercer, actually. I went to school for art and design, and I had intended to be an art teacher. But unfortunately, I graduated at the height of the Great Recession. So I needed a job, and art teachers were not one of the jobs that you could get at that time. So I went into advertising. I had actually been working at a radio station in Boston throughout school and after I graduated from college. And that's definitely how I got exposed to marketing. I think it was still a bit of an elusive concept for me for a while. Until I interned at Arnold in Boston. Yeah. And I was a design intern there. And my creative director, like the sweetheart she was like, Kaitlin, you are a good designer, but you are a great strategist. And I agree. I think I'm a decent designer, and I am definitely better suited for strategy. So she got me in with all the people that were doing cool innovation work at Arnold. And she had me sit in on a bunch of briefings. This is like ideal early career mentor, right?
Yes.
Just really putting me in the right rooms with the right people.
That's really cool.
It was awesome. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. At the time, social media was like really hitting the advertising world. And I was super into social media. So a lot of the work I started doing was working as a social media strategist at smaller agencies and client side until I got hired at Sapient Nitro, which is now Razorfish. Yeah. They went through many iterations.
They kept on getting absorbed and eaten and munched up. Yeah.
Exactly. They're a nesting doll of agency names. But
that's a perfect way to say it.
At the time, to age myself a little bit, they were called Sapient Nitro. And in Boston, their headquarters, they were building a new strategy team. And the immediate need they had was for someone who knew digital and social really well. Yep. But the team itself was not digital or social specific. We were a full service agency. And so I came in as that sort of subject matter expert, but the head of my department, Scott Karambis, who I'm still very close with, he really pushed me outside of the digital social world and into learning more of the traditional planning skills and doing research. We were research and strategy. So since that point in my career, about 12 years ago, I've been doing research and strategy simultaneously. I got to do like ethnographic work working under him. I got to do focus groups like pretty early on. And he was like, again, a great mentor who trusted me and kind of said, go forth and try it out. Hey, and if you have questions, I'm right here.
The first mentor that said you're a great strategist and put you in those conversations.
Yeah.
What do you know what it was that she recognized or like what she detected that made her say that? Or did she just say like, you're not a good, was she just saying, get out of my design team?
I would like to think she saw my enthusiasm for the ideation process and my savvy when it came to things like digital and social. And the work that I was doing and the work you often do as a design intern or in the first few years of your career as a designer was very production heavy. It was pixel pushing. Yeah. And I knew I would have to do that. And I didn't like it. And I think I was like fine at it. Like I said, I would have been a very adequate designer, but I felt like I came alive in a brainstorm. I felt like I came alive in getting to tell my colleagues, okay, ready for this throwback, about the tagging feature on Facebook. Like the team I was working with did not know about tagging yet. A lot of them weren't on Facebook yet. And so telling them like, no, people can tag a photo and it has their name, and then more people see the photo. I felt like so in my element getting to do that and bring that information to people. I can only assume she just saw my enthusiasm for that. And I didn't know what planning or strategy was. I really didn't until she started introducing me to those people.
Interesting. And then so you went to Sapient Nitro. Mm-hmm. You had Scott there that helped introduce you into more planning, into research. Mm-hmm. What did you do from there?
I moved to California with my partner at the time, who got a job out there. Sapient had an office, but it was a small office. They didn't have a full-time rec there for me. And most of what that office was doing was production work, which is like typical for LA, because that's where all the shoots are. So it wasn't unusual. They just didn't have the work to support me transferring to that office. And it's with these big holdings companies, it's a big issue of like P&L. So I went and they were like, we will support you as a freelancer. We will introduce you to everyone we can, but we can't like keep you. And I, as much as I wanted to stay, it just wasn't going to work out. So I moved to LA, having never freelanced, with a little bit of one relationship with my former employer, and just hit the ground running to figure out how to be independently employed. So I did that for 3 years. My first project was with Beats by Dre. I had a friend who worked at RGA. He knew I had just moved to LA. Like within weeks, I had just moved to LA. He texts me. He's like, "You're in LA?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We need your help on a project. What are you doing right now?" Can I cuss?
Yes, go ahead.
I shit you not. He said, "What are you doing right now? Can you come to Santa Monica?" And I was like, yes.
You said, I'm not sure. I'm really in the middle of something.
I went to Santa Monica around lunchtime that day. I went to that same office every single day for the next 3 weeks to help them launch Beats streaming music service, which is now Apple Music.
Yeah.
They needed someone who knew social, which I did, but they really needed someone to take these hefty brand guidelines from the Beats brand, the capital B brand, and translate them into what that meant for a digital service.
Yeah, that's a real translation challenge.
Real beast. They needed to hire and train an entire community team, which was a part of my role. That team also oversaw VIP relations. So if Dre's wife couldn't get the app to work, for example, that's who she called. And so there had to be guidelines for how those people acted. What was the protocol for when there's an issue? How do we get that issue resolved? And after a few months of working there, it really wasn't that long before my contract ended. They didn't renew my contract. No, I didn't know why. They didn't really know why. It was all kind of weird. I got the opportunity to go freelance at Deutsch working on Taco Bell. Yep. And right after I started working on Taco Bell, the announcement came out that Beats by Dre had sold to Apple for $3 billion. And my team was going to be Apple employees. Yeah. And the rest is history. And then I was like, okay, good. So it wasn't me. It wasn't me, because I loved working with them. And I like to think I have a good sense of when there's a good thing going on.
Yeah.
It was because they were
good.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good. There's definitely like an intuitive sense, I think, when a project is going well and when a team is really working well together. And I actually still keep in touch with so many of my clients there. I'm in a group chat with 2 people from the VIP and community team that we talk daily about just all sorts of things in music and TV and entertainment. But that was my first project. And once you get that first one as a freelancer, it kind of falls out from there, because then you have a thing to talk about that you did. you have hopefully clients who are really happy with what you did that will refer you to other people.
Yes.
Or they have more projects for you in the future. So once you get that first one is so hard. But this is what I tell other freelancers. Once you have the one, then it becomes a lot easier. Plus, you're more confident.
I think the confidence is part of it, because it part of in the times that I've freelanced, the part of it is, okay, I'm busy, but I haven't done any pitching lately and I'm starting to get scared. Even though I'm busy and this week is full and next week is full, that feeling of like, hey, I better start checking my email again and seeing what's coming in. That's a terrifying feeling. But if you have the confidence to say like, something will come in, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. It took me years to get there. I mean, I have been working for myself now in some capacity or another since then, which was 2013. So I'm at almost 10 years of being a freelancer. And I think I have gotten comfortable with it at times, and then I kind of regress. There are certain things that knock your confidence. A great example, the pandemic. Things happen that make you wonder, oh no, like, is this the time where it's all going to dry up? Or is this the time where I'll really have to go back to doing this other thing? Like for me, I don't have I bartended. So like I also worked service jobs when I was younger. That's my backup plan. Like if this doesn't work out, I go back to bartending, and I'm totally okay with that. I also just don't really want to. It's a hard job.
It is a really hard job. It is a really hard job.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what I wonder. I'm like, is this the time? But since the pandemic, things are a little shaky in the freelance world right now. There's like a lot of layoffs happening. I think a lot of companies are just more tightly monitoring budgets and things like that. But so far this year has been great for me. And that's to this day, short version. That's what I'm still doing, working with agencies and brands.
I have a question going all the way back to almost your first sentence.
Sure.
You were educated for teaching.
Yes.
And like so many people, I was a classics major and I switched.
Love that.
And sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? I could still do this job if I just kept reading classics and understanding
You don't know
literature.
What you don't know.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that. But so you graduated into the recession and made that decision. Like, I got to do something that is going to, nobody's hiring art teachers. And so I want to find a job. What is it going to be?
Yeah.
Do you think about that path not taken and what would happen if, those jobs were available?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to steer our conversation too far ahead, but what I would have loved to do at the time is pursue art therapy. So I had known about art therapy in undergrad, and I knew that was a thing, that there was a form of therapy where people would do art with people. And I didn't know too much more than that. The thing is it's a graduate level field of study. It is associated with counseling licensure. It's very rigorous and it's advanced degrees. I went to a state school. If it is not abundantly clear by my history, I did not grow up with money. I grew up in a very low income suburb of Boston. All I know is grinding. And so I was in no position when I graduated from undergrad to take that next step and stay in school for art therapy.
Yeah, the master's track was not going to happen at that point.
No. And so there is a bit of emotion that I get sometimes, because for your listeners who don't know, which is most of them, I am now in graduate school for art therapy at age 36. So I just started last year. And it's great because I'm now in a stable enough place in my life to be able to balance that in my day, to be able to afford to go to graduate school. But I certainly am still working through the feeling of, why didn't I get to this sooner? And there is a little bit of shame for me related to, I'm interning this year. So I am an intern again, starting next week. I am a clinical intern, and
different kind of intern than a designer.
Very different kind of intern. It's a practicum. It's working toward my hours of licensure. It's very rigorous
and regimented. Yeah.
it's a little bit different, but
equally valuable experience.
My clinical supervisors are younger than me. And I feel like, oh, they should be my peers. But what I keep telling myself when those questions for me come up of like the road not taken, and I wish I had spent my 20s doing this, is how valuable of a candidate I was to them, that I'm coming in with a ton of life experience. I'm coming in with 15 years of facilitation skills that's huge. Almost directly apply to counseling and working with their population. I'm coming in with relationships that they'll highly benefit from, all sorts of knowledge that they're getting from an intern that I think most interns would not bring to the table. So I'm trying to remember that as much as it feels like I took a really, really winding road, in some ways it was a shortcut, because I'm not going to have to learn as much of the messy stuff on the job in this new role. Like facilitation, I just said this to someone earlier. Facilitation is something you really need to get your reps in doing.
Yes.
You just have to get comfortable.
The only way to do it is to do it.
You just got to do it. Like you can take trainings and you can read books, and I'm always learning new activities to do in workshops and things like that. But the skills of like blocking someone who's being unproductive to the conversation, or being vocal and holding people accountable to what we set out to do, the decisions we agreed to make. Those are things that you just have to get the experience under your belt to develop the gusto to say to the billionaire in the room who's funding the project, we're going to table that until later.
Yeah.
And it's very similar in counseling.
How do I shut this person down without blowing up the entire day?
100%. And you just got to get your reps in. And so in many ways, I've gotten a lot of my reps in. I'm not as used to dealing with emotional disturbance, for example, but I have skills that translate pretty directly to dealing with uncomfortable scenarios. And I have ways of being authoritative in the room and owning my confidence. And I think those things make a huge difference. So winding road and also shortcut, maybe.
It's weird how they lead to the same place, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so, it is.
Were you in the times that, you've the freelancing for 10 years, and we'll reduce 1 year because you've started last year. Were you thinking about that winding road the whole time and saying like, eventually that's where I want to get? Or were you enjoying what you were doing and taking it project by project and just keeping building Maud Moon and what you're building there, and then saying, we'll see what happens in 5 years? Or was this always the destination that you thought like, I think I'm building to this?
That is such a good question. And it was a very distinct thing happened. And I don't think I've gotten the chance to ever really talk about this, maybe outside of just the people who know me and know that this is what happened. And I think people will think this is interesting. So what happened was when COVID happened, when COVID showed up in all of our lives in March 2020. You may remember this. Yeah. My husband, he got laid off. He's a recruiter. So recruiters not needed at that time. Highly expensive.
It was a rough quarter for recruiters. Yeah.
Very rough time for recruiters then. So he, like many other recruiters, he got laid off. I had just grown my freelance business by bringing on 3 partners. Not that long before, just the year before. And we were really only just getting into our rhythm as a consultancy and as a group when this happened. And I felt so blindsided. I was like, I did all the right things. Why is this happening? Why is this hurting my momentum with my business? Why is this, my partner had such an amazing job at the time that he was like devastated to lose. I just couldn't believe all of the chaos that this pandemic, a thing we never expected to come, had decided to wreak havoc in my personal life.
And it felt like it landed just on each of us, didn't it?
Right. Yeah. And I think everyone has their own version of this experience, 100%. Right? I am so lucky I only had 1 kid. Like there are, people with multiple kids and like having to, now you're doing fifth grade and third grade and kindergarten schooling at home. Yeah.
You did it. Yeah. It was terrible.
Maybe you know what that's like. For whatever it was for each of us, it brought this totally new perspective shift where this thing that happened, like we never ever imagined could happen, happened. And for me, it was also the first time in maybe my whole career, because even when I worked at Sapient, I traveled a lot, where I was not traveling at least 1 week a month. And prior to that, I'd been traveling about half the month, about 2 weeks a month to client sites and in like new business and all sorts of things. And so I wasn't traveling. Work stopped for a little while. My husband lost his job. And I had a moment where I felt like I really need to think about what I want to do on this earth. I don't know if other people got to a really existential place, but I was a little bit like, why is this happening? What is this telling me? And I have always wanted to do art therapy. I've always wanted to go back to school for that. It wasn't surprising at all to the people who I'm close with that I decided to do that. But I needed to do certain things in order for that to work. So I had to take some prerequisites. Art school I didn't take psych in art school. So I couldn't even apply to programs at the time at March 2020 when I decided like, maybe this is a sign I should do art therapy.
Yeah, so you saw the sign and then you're like, but I'm still 5 lily pads away from being able to do it. But
I was like, but the lily pads are really close in right now. Like I'm 5 lily pads away, but I can actually take an online class right now because I'm not traveling, and all the classes at the community college here in Austin, which is like a very well-known and highly respected community college, ACC. Yeah. All of their classes moved online and were accessible to me for the first time. So I was
it worked out perfectly.
I'm going to take some classes at ACC. And then that was my goal. I'm going to take classes at ACC. And I kept working on my business. My partner was managing the kid. We were making it happen. Then I finished my prereqs at ACC. And I was like, okay, my next step is to apply. I'm just going to apply. I have no expectations beyond that. I'm going to keep working, keep doing my client stuff. We'll see what happens. Well, they accepted me. So then I had a big decision to make. Like, okay, if I'm going to do this, how do I make that work? And everything has just been like one little step in front of the other until now. I'm like fully in the program. I have my clinical hours starting next week. I am on the train has left the building.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm glad I caught you this week for this conversation, because next week I wouldn't have been able to get you, huh? Do you think the career experience and being, not 21 or 22 made it so it's just like, okay, it's the maturity of knowing like it's just one step at a time. So the next thing is I'll take this prereq and then I'll take that prereq and then we're going to apply. Because I remember I applied for grad school when I graduated and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was like a stress case. It was like having a kid.
Yeah. I was not a stress case. I think I assumed there was no way I was getting in. And I looked at it as like, you know what? If nothing else, these 4 prereq classes that I took taught me so much. All of that value I will be bringing to my clients, like 4 psych courses. My mind was just like, so you can't see I'm gesturing, just like lightning bolts inside my brain, because I had so many different ideas for new frames to look at things through, new methodologies for research, new ways of conceptualizing the work that I did, learning about neuroscience and how creativity works and how people learn and how I can help when I'm briefing a team, help things be like memorable and tangible for them. So I just looked at it as like, well, if nothing else, I'm bringing this value to my clients and that's totally fine. And, they're probably not going to let me in anyway because I don't have the right experience or whatever story I told myself at the time. And I just had such low expectations. And then I got in and I want to say this because I'm really proud. I got a scholarship.
Nice.
So I got a faculty scholarship and that like really helped solidify my decision to enroll. And I was like, well, I got to do this now.
Yeah, now there's no backing out of it now. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all just a happy surprise to me every day when I wake up.
Have you been, obviously you're I can tell you're naturally curious and you're a lifelong learner, but formal education, have you been taking classes and trainings throughout your career? Because it sounds like as soon as you got into the psych online class, you were like, oh, I'm going to apply these things right now. You were just absorbing it. Have you always been doing that throughout the 10 years leading up to it? Or?
Yeah, I have. And I have done the IDEO design thinking certification, which was amazing. And I highly recommend it. I did it with a team of people that I worked with. We all did it together. It was super, super fun. I also, when I first started freelancing, so in 2013, I did a program called Marie Forleo's B School. Marie Forleo is this like thought leader, personal development with like a focus on business kind of person. Actually, at the time, it was called Rich, Happy, and Hot B School, targeted to women. Very encouraging for you to like thrive and make money and be in your power. And her videos, I found her on YouTube, really resonated with me. Someone else I went to Mass Art with, which is the art school I went to undergrad, was enrolling at the same time for her Etsy business. And we said we would do it together and be accountability buddies. And so I've always pursued learning to benefit me.
Yeah.
But I also think like I can attribute a lot of my business savvy to having done that online program. And I think like a lot of my design thinking savvy came from like shoring up my skills through learning IDEO's methodology. And I'm very proud to use IDEO's methodology and like say I have that as my, my certificate, my proof of experience. I love it. I would be in school forever if I could.
You can.
I would.
Nobody will stop you. There's plenty of courses. There's just so much to learn. It's limitless.
I know. So this is like, that's the question. The question everyone wants to ask me, and I don't know if it's on your list, is like, what are you doing with all of this? And like I said, I'm looking at one lily pad in front of me at a time, but I do think it's likely that one of the directions I'll pursue or the direction I'll pursue is staying in academia. So I would love to be a professor. I'd love to get my PhD. A piece of feedback I get a lot is that maybe I should have gone directly to PhD instead of grad school because I am so focused on research and I have a research background and I love research.
Yeah, and they can take your professional experience and count it towards the master's if you need some other.
I didn't know
material.
anyone who's listening, learn from Adam. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Learn from me. You can go directly to PhD. Your professional experience is an asset in that regard, which I didn't know. I thought like, oh, I've been out of school for so long, there's no way they'd accept me, but it's okay.
I just learned this. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I do think it's possible I'll stay in school forever.
But I could tell you're absolutely pulling every pixel of experience out of what you're going through at school and now in your internship. It's not like you're trudging through it saying, I can't wait to get through this so I can get to my PhD. I mean, I can see your face. I
want it to last forever.
Yeah.
Most of this year, I've been working with Nike. And I've been working with a particular population of people doing research with Nike with a particular population of people.
Cool.
And I probably can't share much more than that, but I want to share that because my experience with psychology, and even though I am not a licensed counselor, brought a lot to the table in terms of designing that study and guiding how we facilitated it, what we asked, and helped us all stay accountable to ethics, for example. Particularly when you're working with populations who've been marginalized or are vulnerable in any capacity, I think it's even more important that we be very mindful in how we're inviting them into the research process and that they're consenting to every aspect of the research process. And so it is so related to what I do and continues to be so applicable and valuable to my work. I'm just super grateful. And again, like if I graduate and I'm not an art therapist, but I keep being a strategist, I think I'm that much better of a strategist because I've learned.
But you're building, you're just building more opportunities for yourself as you learn. You can decide which one you want to do or whether you want to do both.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I'll probably do both. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like you have some pretty good clients, so it's not like it's not like you need to go find a new job. You're just choosing which is the most interesting or what is the next right path.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so
As
grateful
the learning,
to
it sounds like it's impacted the way you approach research and facilitation. Has it actually informed strategy work directly in the briefs or the docs that you're writing?
So what we know about creativity is that creativity to work, to actually be a process, requires a certain set of conditions. You just talked about this on the most recent episode with Katie, which I listened to. Katie's amazing. Katie Drecky. Plug.
She is a force of nature.
Huge fan, Katie.
Yeah.
There are conditions to creativity and for the creative process to happen. And some of those are things like exposure to stimulus, new and novel ideas and experiences, because creativity requires divergent thinking, which means thinking outside of the established path. And to think outside the established path, you have to do a thing you've never done, be exposed to a thing you've never done, see a thing you've never seen, hear a thing you've never heard. And so I am in a place in my life right now where I am constantly being exposed to new things by being a student. I'm being exposed to new ideas, to so many perspectives, so much history, so much brilliant thinking. I'm also in a program that is very social justice oriented. So I am being exposed to a lot of different people with a lot of different lived experience. So all of that influences my strategy work greatly. I cannot tell you exactly how that thing influenced that other thing.
Yeah.
But I can tell you I'm a better thinker and I'm a better strategist. And it might not always be this obvious line from A to B with the things I'm learning, but I know my brain is working differently and that I'm more energized and I'm more stimulated.
Is it like, as you were describing that, I was thinking of your strategy work as a cupboard, and it's almost like there's more things in there for you to grab now. And you're not sure exactly how one thing led you to pull at this particular jar, but it's like the pantry's full.
Yes, totally. And it's spicier. I grabbed a little bit more spice, you know? I also think there's because I am working less. So I have to give myself time to be the student I want to be. And especially now that I'm going into my practicum, that's 15 hours a week. So my availability is getting reduced a little bit the further I go on. And by my availability, I mean my hours I can be in meetings.
Right.
The thinking is still happening. The work is still happening. But my hours that I can be fully engaged with the client continue to go down. And I have to be a lot more selective about the projects that I take on and the people that I work with. And I would like, and I've been lucky to have, but I would like to continue to have clients and teams that find they are benefiting as much from me being experimental in their kitchen as I am, that they trust me to add a little bit of spice and just see what happens. And that they trust that I am, doing the work, that I'm still thinking about them, and that this is all going to come together and benefit them. And so far it's been amazing, but that is like a thing I have to be so much more conscious of because I can't stack projects anymore.
Yeah.
My client has to be in it with me
Yeah.
and ready to eat whatever I'm cooking.
and aware of like, you're not going to be able to get a hold of me now for 5 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours, whatever
and
it is.
flexibility. And that is not always a given. And it's helped me in my communication skills as well, saying like, this is what I need for us to work together. And I need you to trust me. I need you to know I won't be available at this time. I felt like I was good at boundaries before.
Yeah.
I'm really good at boundaries now. My boundaries were very loose before. Yeah. Now I'm like, when I am on site, I am working with intellectually and developmentally disabled artists. And so when I'm on site with them, my phone is not going to be on. There is no advertising emergency that could interrupt me working with my client, on whatever it is that they need from me in that moment.
What kind of art is it that you're working on with them? Is it whatever expression they are drawn to? Is it whatever kind of, are there certain types of expressions that you try for different types of situations? I know you can't get too into specifics, obviously, but
I can a little bit with this one, which is really exciting. So I am interning at a place in Austin called Sage Studio. They are a gallery and studio program for adults with disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities. As I said, a lot of their artists have Down syndrome or autism, and their artists are working professional artists. Some have done, Rick, one of their artists, has done work for the Biden administration. They've been commissioned by Vans, and they sell and show their work through the gallery as a part of a big artist community here in Austin called the Canopy Space, which is like a big, like artist building where there's lots of different professional studios and galleries. And so my role will just be as the on-site art therapist, and my job as the on-site art therapist is to draw out their artistic voice, is to encourage their unique expression and be there to shepherd them through their development as a professional artist in the world. And so some people are coming into this program very new. Maybe they've never worked before, or maybe they've never had someone nurture their artistic side before. So it is much more like working alongside them in this studio setting than it is doing art interventions. Although that is also a thing that art therapists do. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the interventional approach, but yeah, I think I could use your help drawing and nurturing the artistic aspect of myself.
Yeah. I mean, I will be doing some workshops with them. I'm going to be coordinating visiting artists. So other like working artists in Austin, having them come by and do like guest lectures, or we might go do studio visits. We're all going to curate a show together in the spring. So that's super exciting for me to get to do a show. They show at the Outsider Art Fair in New York City every year. So I'm hoping to get to help with that. And as a part of my internship, Sage has been super encouraging of me doing research. So I'm actually hoping this time next year to publish a paper on this. They're called disability studios. There are many around the country.
Sure.
A paper on this model as a form of art therapy.
You are like so in your element.
I am. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for wanting to talk to me about it. This is like it. I get so lit up when I get to talk about this.
I know. I can hear it. But it's like you were so swimming and you got right to the exact place where you wanted to be, where you should be.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Thanks.
That's amazing.
It is. And I like can't tell you or anyone like where this is going, but I have a client right now up in New England. They're called the Peabody Essex Museum. So because of this work, I am able to, I could talk about it. I like to talk about it. And I notice that it does attract like a certain type of clientele that seems to really mesh with my experience in school.
Yeah.
And so I'm loving getting to work with this museum. We're doing some work on like equity and how to make the museum experience more equitable for people. So it is like, I'm always surprised by how it shows up, and not to be too like spiritual or woo woo, but I think when you put certain energies out there and you are genuinely excited about it, the people who will feed off that find it usually.
Yes. Yeah, they are drawn to it. Yeah. Kaitlin, amazing to talk to you. Thank you for making time for me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad we were able to talk. Yeah. Where can people find you online?
Kaitlin Maud everywhere. KaitlinMaud.com is my website. And yeah, my business is called Maud and Moon, but hit me up anywhere. I do a lot of speaking as well, coaching, or let's just talk about art therapy, because that's my area of interest in geekdom right now.
It's so awesome to see how excited you are about it. Very cool. Thank you for making time for me. It was great meeting you.
Thanks.
Strategy Inside Everything is produced by me, Adam Pierno. If you like what you've heard, leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Actually, I have no idea if that helps or if it's ever done anybody any good. If you really want to help the show and you like what you've heard, share it with someone else you think will dig it. That's the best way to help the show and keep the conversation growing. If you have an idea, a question, or want to push back, go to that'snotaninsight.com, where you can send me a message or leave me a voicemail that will be added to future shows. Music for the Strategy Inside Everything is by Saw Square Noise. For more information on me, you can go to adampierno.com to learn about my books, my speaking, and my consulting practice. Thanks for listening.